Today, a Linux kernel flaw that turns any user into root, a newly uncovered modular framework that culminates in ransomware, a North Korean campaign seeding over 100 malicious packages and extensions, and a disruption that cut off 2 million infected devices from a proxy network. Here's what's moving and what defenders can do now. Welcome to your cybersecurity briefing. We keep it calm, direct, and operational so you can prioritize action in fast-moving situations. First, the bad Epoll Linux kernel vulnerability, tracked as CVE 2026-46242. The headline here is that an unprivileged local user can escalate to root on Linux desktops, servers, and Android. Key facts: the flaw lives in the kernel's Epoll code path. A fix is available, and this is the same small stretch of code where Anthropic's Mythos model recently surfaced a different bug. The scope is broad because the affected code ships with virtually every modern Linux distribution and propagates into Android. This matters because local privilege escalation is a common second step after initial access, turning a minor foothold into full system control, data access, and persistence. For defenders, treat this as a priority patch. Fast-track vendor kernel updates on servers with multiple users, shared HPC and VDI hosts, CI runners, and developer workstations. For Android fleets, plan for OS updates as they roll out, and tighten mobile device management baselines in the interim. Monitor for unusual transitions to UID 0, spikes in set UID binary execution, and anomalies in container hosts where a breakout could leverage a kernel LPE. Next, a previously undocumented modular malware framework dubbed Avalon with ransomware capabilities. The core context: Avalon arrives via a multi-stage phishing chain designed to bypass traditional security controls. Key facts: it brings together credential theft, lateral movement, remote access, recovery disruption, and finally, the execution of CrownX ransomware, consolidating diverse functions under one framework. This matters because it compresses the kill chain, allowing operators to move from initial phish to domain impact faster, and it deliberately targets the controls many organizations rely on at the email and endpoint layer. For defenders, harden at the front and back of the chain. Reduce initial phish success with modern email authentication checks, attachment and link detonation, and user prompts for external senders. Enforce phishing-resistant MFA on high-value accounts, restrict credential material on endpoints, and segment administrative access. Prepare for the worst case. Test that offline immutable backups cannot be enumerated or altered from compromised endpoints. Verify that recovery playbooks work without directory services, and ensure EDR policies block or isolate on credential dumping, remote service creation, and encryption tooling behaviors. Third, the PolinRider campaign linked to North Korean operators from the contagious interview activity set. The headline is Volume and Scope: 108 unique malicious packages and browser extensions published across NPM, Packagist, Go ecosystems, and the Chrome Web Store. Key facts: the campaign remains active, and new malicious packages are likely to keep appearing as threat actors compromise maintainer accounts. This matters because it turns the software supply chain and even developer browsers into delivery channels. A single compromised dependency or extension can poison CI/CD, exfiltrate tokens, or implant build time backdoors. For defenders, tighten dependency and extension hygiene. Pin dependencies by exact version and hash where possible. Favor internal mirrors or private registries, and date the introduction of new packages via code review. Rotate and scope API tokens used in builds. Require hardware-backed 2FA on developer and maintainer accounts, and continuously audit developer machines for unknown browser extensions, especially those recently added. Add monitoring for sudden maintainer changes, package name lookalikes, and dependency additions in critical repositories. Finally, the disruption of the NetNut residential proxy network, which cut off about 2 million infected devices. The context: a joint operation including participation from a major technology company, interrupted access to a network that routed traffic through compromised Android devices, smart TVs, and streaming boxes. Key facts: the action directly reduced available proxy nodes at scale and specifically targeted devices running Android-based platforms. This matters because residential proxies mask adversary traffic as legitimate consumer activity, challenging IP-based reputation controls and enabling fraud, scraping, and intrusion staging. Removing millions of endpoints shifts the threat landscape in the short term, while highlighting how widely consumer Android and IoT devices have been compromised. For defenders, expect transient changes in IP reputation and traffic patterns as adversaries retool. Review controls that block or flag residential proxy use during authentication and payments. On the asset side, audit any managed Android devices, smart TVs, and streaming boxes for unauthorized apps. Ensure firmware and OS updates are current, and segment these devices from sensitive networks. Strengthen egress policies and DNS filtering to limit abuse of commodity proxy and relay services overall. In summary, patch the kernel to close bad Epoll, blunt phishing to ransomware pipelines that Avalon aims to streamline, lock down your software supply chain and developer browsers against PolinRider, and prepare for shifts in IP reputation and endpoint compromise from the NetNut disruption. That's your brief for today. And use the NetNut disruption as a moment to tighten both your proxy defenses and your Android and IoT hygiene. If this briefing helped you prioritize your next moves, subscribe for operational updates, share it with your team, and tell us in the comments which of these you're tackling first so we can tailor the next briefing to your needs.